Welcome to the Lady Landlords podcast, where we empower women to gain financial independence through real estate investing. I'm your host, Becky Nova, founder of Lady Landlords. If you're ready to buy, manage, and grow your real estate portfolio, then let's get started. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Lady Landlords podcast. I am your host, founder, Becky Nova. Thanks for joining me. Today's topic I want to bring up because this is something I hear from so many different women that I get on the phone with. I get to talk to so many women that are coming to me because they're really looking to build an intentional portfolio. Now, this might be you out there. This actually was a place where I even was when I first started. The reason I bring this up is because I was in that category of what we call an accidental landlord. So you might be there too. Here's what an accidental landlord looks like. For me personally, when I got into real estate investing, it was because I was looking for really just a way to be able to buy a property and make a little money, maybe save some money from my own personal mortgage. And that's what really drew me to this, right? I own properties in New York. That's where I live. And I really was trying to buy my own property, but said, hey, prices are really expensive here. How can I kind of cut my bills? How can I get a little bit of help for my monthly mortgage payment? That's what really drew me to this. When I bought that first rental property, it was not because I was looking to grow an empire, replace my income, any of all those other benefits that now I know I can have, but it was really just something that I was just trying to make a little bit of a difference and on my life a little bit easier at the beginning. Now, there are so many different types of accidental landlords that could have drawn you to this business. For example, I talk to women that either inherited a property, maybe they already owned their own property and are moving in with a partner of theirs, or that they actually have upgraded and have moved their family into another property and decided that they didn't necessarily need to sell their old one. All of these situations are a great way to kind of kick off our journey here in real estate investing. It gives us a great little taste for, do we like this? Do we want to handle tenants? What is that necessarily going to look like? But it doesn't then teach us how to really make this a business and then how to get to that leap where we are able to replace our income. So I feel that a lot of people find lady landlords kind of when we're in between those two scenarios. Great, I now bought a new property. My old one is being rented out. I like this tenant thing. I like the money I have coming in from this tenant thing. So you know what? Let me do this again. But now let me actually figure out the right way to do this. And at that point in time, we just need a little bit of a different skill set to be able to move forward. And I think that's what holds up a lot of people. We end up getting to a place where we say, well, now that I'm actually going to go out and buy an investment property, oh shit, I need to know how to do deal analysis. Oh shit, I need to actually figure out how I'm going to fund this multiple property buying adventure that I'm kind of going on. And that's very different than just, okay, I'm now going to buy an owner-occupied property. So what I have for you today are 3 different tips of what you can do to help you start to move along that way of building an intentional portfolio and really moving out of that accidental landlord kind of space. So the first tip that I have for you is to realize that now is the place to really educate yourself, right? This was exactly where I was after I bought that first property, had those tenants move into that duplex along with me and started house hacking. I absolutely fell in love with the idea of being able to provide others with safe, clean housing, but also help myself by making some money. But I had no idea how I was going to be able to do that. Honestly, everybody I spoke to, I called up after my first closing and was like, that was great. I love this. I want to do this again. How do I buy another property? Everybody's like, oh, no, it's too soon. You can't do that. Oh, no. You just spent a lot of money here. You can't do that. And it was really discouraging. I felt like I was just having a whole bunch of doors slammed in my face. And I knew that wasn't actually the case. So I went down a full-on rabbit hole here, trying to figure out what you could do to buy your second property, right? And how I can really make this an intentional business. That is absolutely the time to start listening to various podcasts like our Lady Landlords podcast. This is the time to start plugging into workshops. This is the time to start networking. This is the time to pick up some books. This is the time to find a mentor, somebody that's been there, done that can really help you along the way. Because this is really where you're just saying like, cool, I'm just kind of playing. This is a hobby. Great. I have maybe one unit. I have two rentals, something like that, to really saying like, no, this needs to replace my income now. I'm ready to take this full time. There's going to be some education level. It's definitely the place that you want to be able to level up. If you need help being set up with a mentor, head over to lady-landlords.com and you can actually schedule a free consultation there to learn if mentorship is right for you. So check that out. This is really the time when that education and leveling up is going to be really important because listen, this is now something new. Anytime we learn something new, anytime we're now taking on a new skill, it is time for us to really be able to invest in that education that we need for those skills, those tool sets moving forward. So that's tip number one for me is get yourself educated, right? Second is we really need to start thinking about finances. Most people, when they buy their first property, it tends to be an owner-occupied property, right? When we buy an owner-occupied property, there are just a lot of mortgage products out there to support us in purchasing our own property to be able to live in, right? In a way, banks, lenders, federal government do want to make sure that people, that Americans do have homes, that we have our own homes, and we're on that road to homeownership. But those same people do not have as much invested interest in helping us purchase investment properties, start businesses, be able to grow those businesses, and really kind of change what our financial future looks like. So during this time, we also want to make sure that we are planning appropriately financially. Okay. There are certain amounts of money that you're either going to need for a down payment, and that's going to be different than owner occupied, or we need to start looking into creative financing paths. Once again, think about that education that I just shared in that first step. There are absolutely ways that you don't necessarily need that down payment, that you still can move forward, but we then need to have that education piece put in place to be able to go get those strategies, right? So we want to either think like, where is this money coming from? What monies am I going to be using to be able to invest moving forward? Even with any type of private money, any other type of loan that you have, trust me, people out there are going to want to see that you're investing in yourself and that you have some skin in the game, whether it be financially, some type of you pouring your heart and soul into this project for them to really be able to invest with you as well. So you do want to make sure that you are thinking about what are you bringing to the table in some of those more creative type strategies. Also, this is a time that we need to be watching what our debt to income ratio or our DTI is. We also want to be watching our credit score. Okay. All of those things is really going to be important to make sure that we have a handle on what our finances look like. This is important for us to be really doing and tracking in our own lives, in our personal lives with our personal budgets, just as much as it's going to be now that we're going to be building intentionally and really are going to be business owners. Business owners need to keep track of books. They have to have bookkeeping. They need to have records. They need to understand what their costs are, what their income coming in is, what their profit is at the end of the day. So it's a really good habit to start doing that for your own personal budgets and your own household finances, because that's going to not only give you a skill set that you're going to be able to take and transition into when you're growing your own business, but it's also going to make sure that you have things in order to be able to secure financing. Like I said, regardless if you go traditional or creative financing, you still need to make sure that you have a basic understanding of your own general personal finances. So take some time, great time now in spring to really say, you know what, this is a habit that I'm going to add on here and start to go back through what your own finances are looking like and get those ready and prime yourself to start investing, right? That's going to really fit together with as you're educating yourself to be working on making those financial improvements. Tip number 3 that I have for you today is to start thinking ahead. I feel like I see so many people that, and I guess this is more of a misnomer. I feel like I see all the time people saying that it's so hard to get started. It's so difficult to get that first property. I'm here to tell you it's not the first property that's the hardest. The hardest property to buy is actually number 2. The reason for that is because, once again, there were so many different ways to be able to get started and involved in that first property that just make it a little bit easier. Usually need a little less money. Usually you're looking for a place that you're also going to be living in, so you can go a little bit more of a traditional route. It's really that second property and starting to scale that's where a lot more of that strategy comes into place. And the biggest problem I see because of that misnomer is since people aren't planning or we're not thinking ahead to how are we going to buy property 2, 3, and 4, we're getting stuck in between all those different properties. So cool. You go out there, buy your first property, get your owner occupied property. But if you did not necessarily purchase that in the right way with the right funds at the right price point and be bringing in the right amount of ROI, your return on investment or profit on that property, it's really going to stop you from being able to kind of grow at the speed that you might necessarily want to. That's bad to do that after your first property. But now thinking about how we're going to be building an intentional business, we really have to focus on what we're looking to accomplish in real estate and kind of work our way backwards. So for example, my goal originally with real estate investing, when I decided to start building intentionally and decided to take this to a more serious level, my goal was to get to 10K months. That was an important number for me because in that way I would really be able to replace my daytime income. That made a difference. So that was the number that I wanted to get to. So if I then wanted to get to my 10K months, I needed to then figure out how many properties I was going to need to be able to do that, or what type of cash flow that I was going to be able to see. Personally, in New York, I tend to be buying a little bit of more expensive properties. A little annoying to kind of have that barrier to entry at a high cost of property, but I do feel like I am able to find good cash flow on those. So for example, if I'm really able to find $500 per door, right, and I mostly buy multifamilies, right? So that's really saying that to get to a 10K month, I'm really kind of looking at about, what would that be then? Your 10, I would probably need about 10 different properties to be able to get to that 10K months, right? 10 properties, if I'm buying duplexes, $500 each would really kind of get me to the 10K months that I'm looking for. So based on that, once now I know that those are the properties that I'm going to need, that I need those 10 duplexes to be able to get there, because they're each going to bring in $1,000 a month in profit. Once I now know that, I can then kind of work my way back, because then I have to figure out really how am I paying for property number 10? Then that's going to help me figure out how I'm going to pay for property number 2. If I just went in and said, okay, let me just buy one more, and then now that I closed, okay, what am I doing now to buy the next one? I'm really going to be putting myself at a disservice there. I'm going to be putting myself in a position where now I might have to have a lot more lag time in between properties, because I now have to sort out how I'm going to be financing and funding these properties. Okay. So this is the idea of really setting up our projections, setting up what is life going to look like? What are my finances going to look like? What is that rental business going to be bringing in? What am I going to be able to use to leverage? What equities am I going to have over time? And that is really going to make a difference in how you're going to be able not only to scale, but also scale quickly, and then really put you in that better financial position that I know you're dreaming and thinking about right now. So if you have not yet, I want you to start thinking about what that end goal is in Lady Landlords and your entire investing journey. That's going to be where our starting point really is kind of the finish line, and then work your way back on strategy. Now, if you need help with your strategy or breaking down exactly how you'll be financing each and every single one of the properties that you need to create an intentional business, feel free to reach out to me. You can always book a call at lady-landlords.com, or once again, just make a post in our Facebook group, and I'm happy to help you and respond there. All right, just make sure to tag me in the post so I see it. Thank you very much for joining me for today's episode of the Lady Landlords podcast. Make sure to subscribe to episodes so that way you will see our next one. We release 2 new episodes every single month. Thanks so much, and see you all soon.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate journey, visit lady-landlords.com to book a one-on-one workshop with me. I'll help you determine your next best strategy. Or you could subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.